Good evening. Hi, everybody. How is the sound? Can you hear me okay? All right, let's go over a few things. First of all, about today. I am going to record this and send it around for those that can't make it this evening. Just a quick little reminder for people. Well, today was kind of a mess. As you can tell, I'm not real big on doing open houses. I don't care about them that much, but I had a lot of people asking about one when we're going to have one. It was actually 2 years. And I decided kind of last minute over the weekend to just go ahead and throw one out there and decided to kind of just throw the baby in the pool attitude, and whoever whoever liked it, great. Whoever didn't, that's fine too. But then we had another little issue. One of the emails didn't go out. You saw an email you got today that had some rules and guidelines and things about the room. That didn't go out to you before. It misfired. Something happened, so that didn't go out. So that was one problem. And then, we're in a new room this year, and it's been a while. I kind of forgot, so you may have been flustered by being in a different room. And then to top that off, this room didn't really realize they had a hard limit of 100 people, and I guess we had about 150, 160 try and show up. So the last 50 people didn't get in. They got a hard cutoff, which the other room didn't do. If I went over the limit, they just kind of let him in and said, hey, you went over, what's going on? It was no big deal. But here there's a software hard cutoff that was set up. So I got that changed for tomorrow, and we'll be all set for everybody. So if you were one of the ones that didn't make it, my apologies. It was kind of a messed up day anyhow. So that's why I decided just to call it a total reboot. The open house will be tomorrow and Thursday. So if you were here today, great for whatever it's worth. And I also decided to have this little meeting so that we can just kind of go over some of the stuff. It won't take 20 minutes probably, but it'll give you a chance to ask some questions about the room and that sort of thing. So let me go through some stuff, and then if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask. So again, this is the second time this year I had apologized for something professionally. Around the house, of course, I have to apologize every hour or so, but professionally, second time this year, I don't like that at all. So today, the first thing I said today about the actual day was I felt like Lloyd Bridges and Airplane picked the wrong day to have an open house because I really didn't like a lot of stuff today. The setup, a lot of the list. But by the time we got going, there were a handful of things I liked. And we got underway, and the first trade was great. And then, I'm not going to go through them all, but then I took one too early and messed up one. But then we came back, and by the end of the day, I ended up losing one today, which is no big deal because I really screwed up some stuff. But it was just kind of an unorganized day, I felt like. But let's run through the way the procedure goes, what's supposed to happen, and how this goes. So first of all, those of you here, I will get your email on the watch list, and in the evening I send out the watch list, so they'll probably go out in an hour or two tonight. And you get the list, and here it is. Send your email. I usually have a few comments about the next day or that day, whatever, no big deal. And naturally, at night, the gap lists aren't in here. So there's three things I look at. There's the daily charts, and that's here called strong and weak. Daily chart watch is strong and weak. And then there's a 60-minute watch, so that's not a daily chart, it's a 60 watch. And these are all done the night before because obviously once the market closes, I can look at the daily charts and the 60-minute charts. So this is what's sent to you the night before. And this is what's posted when you log in at 8:30, that list right there in case you didn't get it in your email. That morning then, between 8:30 and 9, I go through the gap list and I add the gappers in here. These gappers include both the full-fledged gappers and the mini gappers. You don't have to worry, that's a strategic thing, it's not a room operation thing, but both of them are on there and those get added, and then I send you that list at about 10 minutes till 9 or something like that. Now during the open house, I'm probably going to speed things up 10 minutes. So you probably get that list about 20 minutes till, and I'll probably start talking at 10 minutes till. So a couple people were upset that it says 9 o'clock and I was talking at 10 to 9. I just thought I'd get started early. So do plan on me starting to talk at 10 minutes to 9, okay? Now the other thing that I do is you'll notice that when you log in, the first thing that'll go up will be this is sent to you in the room, that's the watch list, and then it's posted there. And then when I go to do the gaps and to add those in, then I typically put up this, the little note about the room, and then I'm taking 5 minutes to add the gap list and then to send it back to you. So some members like to add to what I have, and then that's kind of a heads up to them to say, hey, in a couple of minutes, my list is coming. So if you want to wait and compare mine to yours, then you can add. Some days I'm a little later with this, so they just go ahead and put their stuff out there. Members in the room, once you're a member, some of the members are kind of respected and well valued, and they have comments and additions and some suggestions of their own. And some people have gone to like and to follow them as well too, to some extent. Naturally, as guests, I don't want you to do that necessarily. You can feel free to ask questions later in the day. And as you can see, if you have trade suggestions, we're on a pretty good pace in the morning, and I probably really don't have time to look at a whole lot of trade suggestions unless we happen to get done early. That's not the point of the open house. It's just for you to kind of watch and see what goes on until, 10, you see 10, 10, 15, 10:30. I typically am freed up and, just kind of casually looking at that point. So there's the whole watch list scenario. And then, of course, once it is posted there, you can also access it in the Shared Files tab. So here's me. I'm logged in as Paul Guest there. You can see me there. And in the Shared Files here, that watch list will show up along with some other stuff, a lot of the documents that were sent to you today by email. And I'm not going to go over and read all those documents to you. Obviously, you can look through them and do what you want. I just want to bring out some highlights. Next on the list is the screen layout here. What you see is I have a 4-monitor layout, and 3 of those monitors are dedicated to charts and trading. The other one's dedicated to the room and scanning and some other stuff and some of the account stuff. But there's 3 that are dedicated to just charts. And you're looking at a little snippet here of one of them. So what you're looking at here, let me bring the camera back up here, is you are looking at the most of my lists, or at least the top half of the list, and then 3 charts. So you're seeing a daily chart, an hourly chart here, and then down below, I changed that from anything from a 1 to a 15-minute chart, depending upon what I'm looking at. And then off to the left is the little, what we call the big board here. I'll get to that in a second. The watch list you're seeing here, you're seeing when they're like this, the top over here, you're seeing the 60-minute list. It's the one that I send you. So, again, this is here for me, but just so you see what you're seeing, that's the 60-minute list that's sent to you. And then this is the daily bullish and bearish list that is sent to you. This here is the hot list that I begin forming with you live at 9 o'clock. Those are the ones that I want to be looking at to trade the opening half hour. And then when I get to the gap list, I click on them and pull them up. They're sitting kind of behind that. Well, for me, they're below, but I pull them up there so you can see them. Those are the gap lists. So there's 5 lists really: the hourly, daily bullish, daily bearish, gap up, gap down. Remember, gap up does not mean it's bullish. Gap down does not mean it's bearish. It could be either way. The daily charts are here, a couple of reasons. I do daily chart watches for one reason, because I put out swing ideas in the letter. And also, sometimes I like looking at some swing ideas. And also sometimes the daily charts provide great intraday day trading concepts. If your daily chart has a certain setup to it, it could be a fantastic trade for you on an intraday chart. But they have to line up. Sometimes a great daily chart does not make for a great intraday chart. It makes for a terrible intraday chart because it's rallied too much. Like a good example, that would be CNC. Like a couple days ago, this was on here because it had this little bullish breakout, but there's no way you'd want to take that long the next day as a day trade. As a matter of fact, it's a short the next day, if anything. But then once it recovers, it could end up being a really good daily chart again. So daily charts are not necessarily good day trades, and that's why I go through them, and I pull out the ones that I think are the best for day trading that day. The things that I love go on the hot list again, and sometimes love isn't the right word. Sometimes it's the timing. For example, if I were to have CNC yesterday on the hot list, looking for that pullback, I wouldn't put it on the hot list. Excuse me. If I was looking at CNC yesterday to determine if it should go on the hot list, I wouldn't put it on the hot list because I'm expecting it to pull back to that area in here somewhere. I'd be expecting it to pull back to here, and that would take all day. So there's no point in putting it on a list that I'd be looking at the opening 30 minutes. But it may go then on a back burner chart. I have a bunch of charts off to my right, and the first set of my charts, and you don't see these, of course, are for the hot list things. They're the ones I'm staring at. And then there's another group of charts that are just kind of the intermediate things, the things that didn't put them on the hot list, but they could set up the opening 30 minutes, like if they had a quick rally or a quick drop. And then way to the right are the back burner charts, the one that are kind of like, well, maybe I'll look at those later on today. And naturally, I can always go through the lists again if I'm really serious about looking later in the day. Typically, I'm not. Today, I did come back to take one trade because everything's set up later today, which is something I'm going to talk about in a second as well. The room here, the old room, had a tab for posting things separately, and that's where I put the room post. Like when I want to do a trade, naturally I want to announce it properly ahead of time so that anybody who wanted to participate could. Today was unusually hectic and short notice on a couple things. That's not normally the way it is, but some things just happen that way today. I can't avoid that always. But this room didn't have that, and it turned out to be kind of a blessing because that tab had everything there, but was kind of a mess. So now what I do is I keep track up here. Now this is just a summary sort of. This is what I would consider to be a courtesy. The actual post always goes in the room. And if you read all the documentation, it tells you exactly how it works. But if I want to take stock XYZ long over 32.25, stop under 32.00, I'm not going to type all that because it's not necessary. The shortcut for that is this XYZ 32.25, 32.00. You have the symbol, and then you have to know that the entry means over the entry. So not at 32.25, but over 32.25, with the print being there, meaning it trades there, meaning the offer being at least there, and meaning it trades more than 100 shares. Sometimes you get little, when you have a little less than 100 shares, sometimes they go outside the market, it's called. So even though the offer is at 32.25, it could print 32.26, and there's other reasons that happens too. You don't want that to be your trigger. You want to make sure it's really there. Now, when you're really trading, you want to make sure that it absolutely hits the number. If you have a very liquid stock, you want to make sure it's really trading 32.26, not just touching it here and there, here and there. For the room rules, since to me, one of the most important things is the integrity of the room and that you can, trust the results that I tell you that are there, I have to have a rule, and it simply is that it has to be the offer and the price has to print at 32.26, and it has to be more than one trade, and it has to be more than 100 shares. And sometimes it's tricky. Sometimes it's very hard to tell it's moving fast. But there's two issues always. There's, what do I want to do to keep the integrity of the room? I always defer to, going against the benefit of the room or going, against the profitability of the room, so to speak. Always would rule against whatever it was. But in your own trading, you want to make sure that you trade in a way that's most profitable to you, okay? And then once it happens, then it goes up here. So at 9:35, XYZ, was a long, I always put it in capitals, XYZ, was a long 32.25, 32.20, or 3200, whatever it is, boom, boom, boom. Now, if it's up here like that, if I'm sitting here talking and I'm saying I'm waiting for it to trigger, I just leave it there because you can hear me. You're human beings. You understand what I'm saying. But if I were to, let's say, it hadn't triggered yet, it hadn't gone over 32.25, this yellow coloring here is to say it's valid, but I'm not entered it yet because it hasn't triggered. And if I were to get off the mic or to step away so nobody's confused, I would color it like that, okay? And then once it triggers, I would come back and say, okay, now it's triggered. Once something has triggered, I typically will pretty quickly put some targets here. There could be 1, 2, or 3 targets. If there's one target here, then that means there's one target I'm going through. If there's 2 targets, it means half-half. Unless I say differently, it would be assumed to be half-half. If there's 3 targets here, it's assumed to be a third, a third, a third. I never go more than 3 targets, and there's the 3. Sometimes a target is called EOD. That means end of day. It means that there is no specific target, just holding to end of day. Typically, it means I will come back later and add a target, but for right now, there's no specific area. I like holding end of day. If I would have taken the M short and walked away, the end of day hold would have been a 4R trade. That's almost a full week's profit for walking away. I like to do that more often than not. Today was kind of a mess to me in a lot of ways, and I didn't come close to doing that. Well, actually, the Merck trade, I walked away on that. And that ended up being pretty good. The Merck trade made some decent money. And then pretty much walked away also on the replay on the oil COP. Okay, so I see there's a question there. Let me just finish up here. So there's the room post. Blah, blah, blah. Now, typically, if I raise the stop on the whole thing, let's say I have targets here at 32.25 and 32, whoops, that wouldn't make much of a target, would it? 32.50. and 32.75. Let's see, I raise the stop on the whole thing, 32.20. I put it there, underneath the stop. Okay, so that's the new stop then. That means the whole position has the stop raised. If I hit a target, and if it were to stop out, then I just color this in, the done, saying it's done, it's stopped out. If, however, I go and I hit a target, then I color in target number 1, saying that that's done. So you can just tell at a quick glance. And either it's colored in up here, which would mean it stopped, either to a reduced stop, but it was some kind of a loss, it didn't get a target. Or it got colored in down here, meaning I hit a target. Now, once I hit target 1, the trail for the remaining part goes here. If there is no trail, then there is none. It doesn't automatically go to break even. It doesn't go to the old stop. So I'd have to type a new stop in here. Frequently, it would go back to the old stop temporarily, but it may get raised at some point, and that's what that is. So there's the target, there's the trail, and once I have that, then this next target is locked. It's sandwiched in. There's the target on the top side. There's the trail on the bottom side. A lot of times it'll say EOD, they're end of day, but I'm trailing at 32.50. Does all that make sense, everybody, so far? Do you start? Well, John, you're asking I know what you're asking, but I'm just saying you're asking the wrong question. Do you use stop orders? Stop orders and limit orders are not the opposite. Market orders and limit orders are the opposite of each other. Stop orders can be stop market or stop limit. I think you're asking if I use stops. If I'm sitting here, John, I typically am just using I'm just using limit orders. If I were to walk away, then I would put a stop there. But usually if I'm sitting here, but sometimes not. If it's a liquid stock and I got something else going, you hear me mumble myself sometimes, I'm putting that on auto, just on automatic, meaning it has a stop in place to get into it so that I don't miss it. And I'll do that particularly on more of a liquid type of stock, okay? And I think you've been at the Friday thing where we discuss the benefits and detriments of market versus limit orders too, okay? All right, is this clear, everybody? As far as watch lists, posting, the screen you see in front of you, the big board as we call it, all clear, everybody? Good. Read over, I sent you a whole bunch of material. There's like rules of the room, how to use the room, but there's also 2 emails in there. There's like 5 little icons you can click on, and the bottom 2 are emails about tips about using the room. Some of the things you guys asked about how you can mute the room, how you can do all kinds of different things that aren't terribly obvious by just looking at it. So that's just, fun stuff for you for the next 2 days. Strategically, I'd like to point out a couple of things. This is not a real statistic, but in my estimation, 90% of the time stocks hit the high or low of the day at 9:35, 10 o'clock, or 10:30. So yes, I like the opening hour because I think that's a huge advantage. And yeah, sometimes stocks hit their high the opening couple of minutes. So I do like that. I generally am only trading fairly liquid stocks so that they're obtainable. If not, like something today on the screen I couldn't do because it just wasn't, that liquid. But like M today, it fell, after 10 seconds, 50, that's what time you had to get the best entry. So I don't like to promote trading as being where you have to be super fast. You just have to be focused. I don't think you have to be fast. If you have your favorite stock, you're looking at it, boom, you hit the button, you're in. There's nothing all that tough about it. But if you're unorganized and if you're looking at 17 different things, then you're always, not focused on the right thing. And that's why I take all this time going through the hot list. And while you heard me today, I had a little too many things I was looking at. And while I was getting the 1, 2 other favorites got by me. So they kind of had 3 favorites and I didn't get 2 out of the gates, which I was kind of mad about. And then after that, then the challenge always is, when do some of these setups, when are they going to hit their high? Is it going to be right at the open, or is it going to be high or low? Is it going to be right at the open, or will it be at 10 or 10:30? Like if you look at like COP today, I came back because I knew COP was going to drop today, and I ended up getting right at the high later in the morning. Well, actually, it kind of hit its high at 10:30, but I did it at lunch. It was the only trade I did. Normally, I'm not doing something after 11. 95% of my trades I'm done. That's a real statistic, are done before 11 o'clock. If I feel there's something that is just going to set up, then I may come back, or if I think the market is such that it's going to hit a bottom or top, I may come back. But 9 out of 10 days just kind of done walk away at 10:30, 11. And I like to really leave things alone as much as possible when I think something has a move that could be on the daily chart or more to try and capture a big move, to get that 3, 4, 5 hour move on at least the back half or back 2/3 or something like that. So strategically, yes, I like that. Now, that's my preference in that case. I teach a seminar program where I do not teach people that's the only way to do it. You can wake up at 11 o'clock and trade lunch. You can wake up at 10 o'clock and trade the gaps at 10:30. There's all kinds of strategies you can do. I've kind of come to find my home to be then, and I've talked about this in some of the free events and that sort of thing. I just think it's always more difficult, if you're falling throughout the day. How do you know if this is going to be going lower or if you're going to go higher? I mean, naturally, we look at all our charts and our time frames to get the odds to do that. But I just think that a lot of times, when 90% of the time things are hitting their morning or day highs or lows that opening hour, to me, that's the focal time to look at. So that is what I like doing, and this will never be a room where we're super active after 10:30. I'm generally done after 10:30. Okay. And in case you walked in a little bit late here, the schedule that you see posted everywhere will be accelerated about 10 minutes to the open house. I'll probably be talking at about 8:50 and probably have the final list to you by quarter to 8:45 or quarter to 9. Okay. Now, what other questions do you guys have? So that we can have a nice organized tomorrow. That's my whole list of stuff, and it's 7:22. And remember, I'm just kind of hitting the highlights. I sent you a very detailed email this afternoon that pretty much it'll be a good reference for me in the future. It's kind of a one-stop. Here's everything you need to know about the room for the open house type of thing. I missed that. Did you say most of the time the stock says? Yes, Chris. At the 9:35 reversal time, at the 10 o'clock, which is really 10:10 reversal time, or the 10:30 reversal time. Very often that is the case. Go look at your charts. Just look at the market. This is a weird week, of course, because we've just been moving higher the last 4 days, not this week. But generally speaking, you go back and look. Just go back and look through a month's worth of trading. Chris, you will be shocked and amazed if you've never looked at it. Pick any stock, pick at the market. You'll be shocked and amazed if you draw vertical lines through 9:35-ish, 10 or 10:30. You'll be shocked and amazed how many times you draw a line through the high or low of the day. Okay? Kern, you can do whatever you want. Again, I am putting out from all of my knowledge and work for the day and knowledge of charts, I am putting out what I feel the best trades are. I end up looking at about 12, 13, 14, 1,500 charts every day to prepare to get this little hot list of 7 or 8 things. And then the next job is to decide when the right entry is and what type of entry to use, which I'm really big on. And once I feel something's bullish and this is the bottom, or I'm bearish and this is the top, you can do it any way you want to. But I do warn you, I don't use options intraday because it's a little tougher. There's a lot of stocks you couldn't do it. You're going to have a little slippage. And don't forget, you want to be careful if you're trading the early morning. The option values will be higher in the high volatility situation. So I don't want to be buying calls at 9:35. That's a dumb thing to do. You want to be selling options. So if you're bullish, you want to be selling calls, not buying puts and vice versa, at least for the opening period of time because of the high volatility. And I don't know why you'd normally want to do that unless it's just an account issue. If you have a day trading account, I think for the most part you should stick with just trading the stocks. And if you don't, there's a way you can set up a prop account to be trading with a small amount of money too. I like options. I'm not a fan of them for day trading for those reasons because you get restricted on some stuff. Okay. Keeping it translate from me. Yeah, Chris, that's the other thing. It's we just talk market time. And that's something that's in the rules that I send you and I mention all the time. New York Stock Exchange opens 9:30, closes at 4. And maybe we could have a debate about it if I lived in California, but since I live in Florida and I'm on the same time, if I'm on Eastern time and the market's on Eastern time, there's only one time in the world, and that's market time, okay? But we should all talk the same time. And unfortunately, if you live Central Time, West Coast time, you just got to translate and use that when we talk. Otherwise, it's just too confusing. I think everybody could agree to that. Okay. Yeah, so you're under 25K, Carrie. Yeah, I get that. So it's very tough to try and day trade doing that. I mean, you end up being, if you're available during the day, then your best thing is to be kind of a hit and run swing trader from the hourly charts and hold overnight. Um, I don't know the exact rule, but I think you can only buy and sell intraday 3 times and non-consecutive, whatever it is. But if you hold over, so there's times you maybe want to do that. But the other thing is to look at, taking that money and putting it as um, toward a prop trading account where you can take $5,000 and be trading $50,000 and actually be day trading like you should be. All right, what other questions do we have? Anybody who is not a member of the room or getting the list ready, I will look up your email from your login today and have it added to the watch list thing. And tonight you should expect to see a watch list from the DTS trading room come out to you sometime this evening. Yeah, Chris, should have just done it right the first time. I just had the sense we just do a real quick little trial and boom, boom, in and out, and it was the wrong call. And then I think if there's ever a word from above that told me, it was when people got locked out of the room today. It was like, oh, didn't even think of that. Didn't even think about that. Apparently, we had 150 people try and get in today, so it wasn't even close. So we'll do it tomorrow. Hopefully, tomorrow may be a little bit more. Well, what I call a little more normal of a day. Yeah, about that too. I mean, everybody looks at things differently. And if you have a winning day, it's an easy day. If you don't have a winning day, but I said this morning before, we got going, I said, a lot of days I just don't love them as much because you don't have all the tools you want. I didn't have the clear market bias today as much. I didn't have the setups as much as I like them. A couple of setups I had, they weren't on stocks I could really trade at the open because they weren't liquid enough. So just kind of a little bit of everything. But then some things fell into place. I ended up with 3 things that worked really well, but I only got one of them. So some days are just like that. So it was just kind of a pain. Yeah, it's posted in the documents tab there, the shared files tab. No, Ed, there's always a debate to me, and I might change in the future sometimes, but right now anybody is welcome to join the room. Anybody's welcome to take the seminar program. You don't have to do both. Some people take seminars and come to the room for a month and then decide they want to do their own thing. And I hear from them once in a while. They do great and good for them. Some people want to take the room and they don't take a seminar program. I will caution you, I don't ever hold back in here, Ed. Like if you ask questions, I mean, I'll give you answers full-fledged. I'm never trying to, get somebody to take something, but you won't learn the seminar program in the room here. It's just simply, it just is no way designed to do that. I've had people sit in the room for 3 years and then finally confess they were trying to learn everything and then they took the program and said, I actually have an email from somebody, please send this to anybody. It said, if you're trying to learn from the room is great, but just take the seminar program and get it over with because they spent 3 years wasting their time because it's too much to learn. There is a lot to learn. It's not hard, but there's a lot to learn. So you're welcome here either way, whatever you want to do. We're very flexible around here. Typically, the trades are reviewed before I do them, right? I mean, typically I have 3, 4, 5 favorites. It explained exactly what it was. But typically I go back. Actually, I think I did that today. I think I went back today and I did do that, at least to some extent. But typically I do a little better job of that. And I do it in the morning before we sign off. Typically. I may not do it every day because sometimes I feel like I cover it so well beforehand. And I give a little review of what the strategic concept was. And sometimes they're still open, so I talk about where I am on managing whatever. So, okay. There's tabs up there, Don, where you're typing here. One says public and one says shared files. Like if you look right above where all the writing is, and that's where all the documentation for the room is. Anything else, guys? 7:30, 30 minutes. I'm good to sit here till midnight if you want, but if we're done, we're done. I think we went over a lot of good stuff. Good, good, good. All right, guys, we'll see you in the morning then. Look for the watch list later, and have a good night.